All right, so I just want to talk quickly about an interesting documentary I saw last night at the Detroit Film Theater, and it's called Secret Mall Apartment, and it's really fascinating. It's a documentary. It's about these people in Providence, Rhode Island. There was a new mall being built, and they had kind of been at the mall and joked about, I guess, like trying to see if they could stay there for a night, and that sort of evolved into them finding this weird little room that you had to kind of crawl through different spaces to get to. And they ended up living there for 4 years. It's really fascinating. They carried furniture up there. It became like a performance artwork because they were art school kids, and the main person was one of the instructors. I want to say at the Rhode Island School of Design is what it was. So it's kind of like a performance, not a performance art, but an installation piece almost. But they lived there for 4 years. And the main guy obviously would put a strain on his marriage. She was in at first. And I don't want to give anything away because it's fairly new. But, the title of it kind of tells you all you need to know. But I thought it was fascinating. The one thing I would say about it is that, they kept it trim at about 90 minutes. But I still think it could have been about 45 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. And then we would have got the gist of it because they kind of stretched it on. I think people are doing that a lot now, where with feature films, it feels like they're going way longer than they need to. And I don't know if it's because ticket prices are higher, or you paid like $100 for a bag of popcorn, or $50 for a beer, or whatever it is. And so they feel like maybe they've got to make it longer to make you feel like you're getting more bang for your buck. But that doesn't have anything to do with the artwork that you've created. The artwork doesn't care what ticket prices were, what the running time is. It is what it is. It's interesting. If it's supposed to be 45 minutes, then you should keep it at 45 minutes. I get that you can't really it's hard to have a screening for a film, especially in an old theater like this, where there's no double feature, there aren't ads running before these films in these theaters. So I get it. Maybe pair it with something, or I don't know. I that's my only critique of it, was that I felt that it went on for too long. I maybe have two critiques, which is I'm not really sure what this was supposed to accomplish, even though I thought it was fascinating. Okay, you did it, but then it's kind of weird to me how there's a mindset where it's very powerful to think that art or installation art or whatever you would call what's happening in this film of people living at the mall for 4 years. It's funny. It's impressive. I think it is an interesting statement about property and what we own, or where we live, and that we live on this planet with a huge amount of space, right? And yet the rent is too damn high, the mortgages are too damn high, and you've got this monstrosity of a thing, a mall, which I don't hate malls, they're just Roman markets, right? Modern day versions. And so I do think there's interesting things being said, but when you make a film, it kind of gets dramatized to, there's a certain amount of dramatization that comes into play, and I don't know if it's because they're just trying to sell the movie, or they're actually trying to capture the energy that was around these people who did this impressive feat. But sometimes when it gets played up, it almost feels like you're witnessing people who they really believe that art is going to change the world. And I don't know if I always agree with that. I think it's happened, sure, and I think I definitely feel that way as well. I'm making my own stuff and then making films and being in films. Of course you think that it's going to have a huge impact and change things. It's like every time you go to post a picture on Instagram, you think that it's going to get more reaction than it does. And so I kind of felt like that watching this movie once we had got through the first 30 minutes or so. Like, you see where this is going, but you have another hour for whatever reason, and even though it could have been wrapped up quicker. And my mind started to think like, oh, I wonder what they were thinking at this time in terms of like, what were they really thinking? What are the conversations that they're having behind closed doors of like, we think this is going to be a major statement against something or for something, or is it just exist as it is, and that's okay too. And I do think it's impressive, and it's a beautiful thing. I think it's funny, and the idea that it would be almost a scandal is kind of strange in a way. Like, you have a space that people can live in, like, why wouldn't you just let them live there? I am a huge fan of that perspective, that idea of, you've got these buildings, especially in the current year of this taping, 2025, commercial real estate is like crumbling after COVID because people realize they don't need to be living under these rules, right, where they have to be somewhere. And a mall is kind of like one of those rules. Yeah, you just shop there, but people have to be in malls when they work there. But for other commercial real estate, they don't. A lot of the times they work in offices. You can email from anywhere, right? But my point is that I like the fact that this documentary kind of challenges that structure, that idea of what is a living space and what is a retail space or an educational space. Like, we can kind of make these things are kind of in flux in a way, and this documentary breaks that idea of what we think things are. I think that's why it's so shocking at first. I didn't know anything about this film other than the basic premise, and I had to see it because I wanted to see, like, how did this actually happen? And it's interesting for them to take you through it and see them moving furniture and like armoires and couches and beds and treating it like it's a space. And they built walls and put up a door, with a key. It's amazing, to be able to do something like that. But all these thoughts go through my head, and I don't know if I'm just saying things that I should be keeping to myself, or I'm sure some of you are commenting, yeah, you should. But I think it's an interesting watch, and I would be interested to know if you've seen it, what you thought of it. If you haven't seen it, would you watch it? I don't know where it's available. I would imagine you could probably find it on Prime. I think it came out last year. I assume it won awards. But it's an interesting watch, and I thought it was. I don't remember that happening in real time when it did, 20 years ago or whenever it was. But I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad I saw it, and I'll give it 2 thumbs up.